This is the exact framework that I follow to eat out while staying lean. And guys, I'm in the best shape of my life right now. Like I'm 8% body fat. I have a great physique. And you know what? I don't sacrifice anything. I still eat at my favorite restaurants. I still eat my foods that I love because I follow this system, the same system I teach the guys inside my community too. And it's 2026. It's not like we can exclude social life from our life. Like we need to be social. We're gonna have to eat out. Maybe if you're a guy like me, you wanna take some girls on a date, you wanna take her to a nice restaurant, go out with your friends, go out with your family. So it's like a must for you to learn how to approach social events while at the same time getting in the best shape of your life. You can shred fat, you can get leaner while eating out if you follow this system. And guys, like it's only 6 steps. You need to follow them in that specific order. And I call it the reverse tracking. I'm gonna explain why. So starting with step number 1, we have to understand first of all that, guys, this is not something we can do every day. If you think that by watching video I'm gonna promote you eating pizza and burgers every day and getting in shape, like you can skip. We must practice high level of discipline. If you don't have discipline, if you're not doing the work during the week, you can forget about that framework, because I use also social event as a reward to reward myself from the hard work I'm doing during the week, enjoying life, because this is how I ensure consistency, long-term consistency. Like fitness is a lifestyle. We have to think, how can we get in the best shape of our life, get leaner, get shredded, and maintain the physique 365 days a year. This is not a challenge. This is like an approach that you're gonna use for life. So the first requirement, before I even present those steps, is you need discipline. During the week, you're gonna have non-negotiable habits to follow. You're gonna have, macros to hit every day, protein, fats, carbs. You need to eat whole foods. You need to work out. You need to get your steps in, your sleep in. If you don't do that work properly during the week, fuck this framework, okay? But I'm assuming that you're already a disciplined guy, you're willing to put the work, and you know that you're not gonna have any excuse during the week, then you can stay and watch. Because step number 1 is you only want to allocate 1 day per week for social event and restaurants. Like, this is the key. I'm not saying you can eat out restaurants every single day. Like, it's just not good. If you want to lose fat, get shredded, because if you want to build muscle, we need the right foods also. It's gonna come from whole foods, which is very hard to get from the restaurant that you typically enjoy, like sushi, Italian restaurants. And it's a steakhouse, but again, they can use extra oil. So allocate only 1 day per week for social events and restaurant. And during that day, you want to be focusing mostly on calories and protein. And the rest of the week, that's very important. We want to be hitting our macros. So during the week, 6-day week, you want to stay dialed in, okay? Eating whole foods, tracking your diet, eating your protein, your carbs, your fat, not exceeding your calories. And even when you approach social events, this is not me saying you can have unlimited food. No, we still need to practice self-control and have some boundaries. So there are some calories that we're not supposed to exceed every day, but during that day, we're gonna play more with the fat and carbs, but still hitting our protein. So just only pick 1 day per week for social event and restaurant. And for me, typically, it's Friday night or during the weekend, because this is when everyone is free. And that allows me to stay dialed in during the week, and I use that as a reward. Okay, if I did a great job from Monday to Friday, I can allow myself to eat out my favorite foods. And you know what? I still fucking do it every single week. So once we know, okay, like typically for us is Friday or Saturday night, I go out with my friends, with my girl, with my family. Then on that day, let's say it's Friday morning, and you know that at night, you're gonna be eating out with your girl or with your friends. You wanna do some form of planning before you even have breakfast. That's the key. That's why it's called the reverse tracking approach, because we do the tracking before. I feel like a lot of guys do this mistake. They eat, then they track their diets. But guys, the secret is to actually do the opposite. And especially on the day where you're gonna be eating out or going to social events, you want to do the work before you even have breakfast. And I highly encourage you that you're getting involved with the selection of the restaurant. If you eat out with your friends, don't just let your friend decide. Like, be one of the decision maker, especially if you go with a girl, like you want to be deciding where to go. Okay? It's not always perfect, but at least you should know where you're going. Because before having breakfast, you want to plan your entire day, entire meals, and especially how you're going to approach eating out. This is the whole point of this video. So let's say you're going to have you're going to go to a Japanese restaurant for having some sushi. Well, scan the menu in advance. When you do your planning, you're going to go on your phone. Every website now has a PDF on their, they have a menu, PDF available. You can go ahead, check, and identify what are the high protein options mostly, okay? I know it's not always easy, especially let's say you're gonna have Italian where it's like mostly pizza, but the same principle applies for any type of restaurant. That's why I say you wanna be involved with selection of the restaurant. But anyway, just know in advance where you're gonna go because you wanna be scanning the menu. And make your selection in advance, at least have an idea of what you're gonna have at the restaurant. This is the key, guys. And you wanna do it before planning your breakfast. You wanna identify, what you're gonna have for dinner. Let's say you decide to have, I'm gonna have like those two sushi rolls, I'm gonna have that entry and maybe a slice of dessert. Okay, perfect, right? Just write down what you're planning to have, because the next step is, based on your selection, you wanna be estimating the macros and calories. This is the key. How you do it is by using a tool like MyFitnessPal or ChatGPT. It's not gonna be 100% accurate, that's okay, but at least we have something to work with. Let's say you did your selection here and you're like, okay, those two rolls, that's piece of dessert and that entry, maybe it's about I don't know. I'm gonna just write down an example for the sake of this video. Let's say you estimate here maybe 1,000 calories and let's say you're only having 50 grams of protein. Because remember, when we eat out, we focus mostly on calories and protein, not macros. We can play with the fat and the carbs. Let's say you estimate you're gonna have 1,000 calories and 50 grams of protein. Okay, perfect. Now the next step is to ask yourself, okay, based on what I'm going to have for dinner, how much calories can I eat during the day? What is my maximum? And we're gonna take an example let's say you're having 2,500 cal per day, and I'm just gonna have 200 gram protein. Let's say that's your daily protein intake, that's your daily calorie intake. Well, how much do you have left for the day? All you need is to do some basic calculation, okay? So you wanna subtract that number from your total daily calorie intake. So here we know we have 1,500 calorie and 150 gram of protein, okay? This is the maximum calories I can have before going out. And because we cannot fully rely on the restaurant and maybe on ChatGPT and MyFitnessPal, I would slightly bring that number down actually. So maybe you say 1,000 calories. Okay, you want to do some form of calculation because We know it's not gonna be perfect. We know they might be using extra oils, like in things we're not fully aware of, and we know the tool that we're using for tracking is not 100% accurate. So have like a margin of error, okay? That's why I take out like 500 calories. And the protein doesn't change. 150 gram of protein. And now you're gonna be planning your meals in advance. And in that case, if you wanna have like a high, protein intake with a calorie that is relatively low, I'm gonna be focusing mostly on lean protein, and you lower carbs and fat. Because think about it. If you want to have like 1,000 calories, 150 gram of protein, we know that for every gram of protein there is 4 calories. Well, 600 calories have to come from protein, and you only can eat 1,000 calories. That means that your focus should exclusively be on lean protein. And you want to lower the carb, you want to lower the fat as well. Just keep the carbs before your workouts. And lean protein options, you can go for chicken breast, you can go for ground beef, 96% lean, you can go for white fish. So that's the only hack when you eat out is during the day, just focus on lean protein because you're gonna hit your protein intake without having too much fat on it. Because if you have too much fat, you're gonna just bring the calories up, okay? So cut down the carbs, focus on lean protein option, so you actually can be lowering the fats. And once you do that, you can be planning your next meal. Maybe you can just have, like 300 grams of chicken for lunch, maybe a bit of Greek yogurt and some blueberries for snack. And one hack that I use personally is I eat before going out. So let's say I have dinner at 8 p.m. or like 9 p.m. I'm gonna have probably a meal at home around 6:37. Okay? Like, again, protein. I love to focus on protein at home because I know some restaurant, it's kind of hard sometimes, unless it's a steakhouse and you can get like a piece of sirloin or rib eye. But the good practice to adopt is to actually eat before you go out. And just focus on protein. You can just have like, some ground beef alone. Or I do sometimes ground beef and Greek yogurt together. Or I can have some eggs if I feel like I'm very, very lean and I say, okay, like it's not the end of the world if I have like 2-3 eggs. But just don't get something that's gonna fill you up a lot. Like a very small meal. Because we don't wanna show up in the restaurant starving. That's the mistake most people do. They show up starving and they order every single thing possible in the menu. At least by doing that, you're not gonna be like super full, but you're gonna be like starving a lot. And it's gonna still help allow you, to have like, some sushis, or maybe it's a slice of pizza and some dessert, right? So that's one of the best tool I can give you is like to eat before you go out, like 2-3 hours before. Like just have some, don't go on an empty stomach. That's the whole point, okay? And you focus on protein. So when you show up, you're not gonna be like starving and order everything on the menu, right? And this is exactly how people fucked up their diets. And the last step is, I call it troubleshooting. Why is that? Is because most likely you're gonna be exceeding your calories, okay? Or it's gonna be like, some extra appetizers, maybe an extra roll, maybe extra dessert. And you know what? It's not the end of the world. Because here again, like, we took that in consideration by kind of eating very, very lean during the day. But just in case to be safe, you're having extra food, maybe 500 calories more than what you're supposed to eat daily. Just the next day, all you do is cut some carbs and you increase the steps and you still hit your protein, right? That's it. That's how you eat out while getting leaner and shredded at the same time. It's not about restriction. It's not about sacrificing things if you want to be in good shape. You just need to have systems in place. Like, I'm sick of people telling me like, oh, it's impossible for me to do this and that. It's like, bro, you just don't know how the fuck to do it. Like, I've been doing this for many years. My clients are still doing it. And you know what? Everyone is getting results, right? But I want to reiterate something. We need to be extremely disciplined during the day. That's the only pre-requirement. If you don't have discipline in your life and you think you can just come and eat whatever you want and be shredded, like, fuck off. This video is not for you. We stay disciplined during the week. We hit our macros, our workout, our non-negotiable habits. And on one day during the week, just allow yourself more flexibility. That's fine. That's part of life. The next day, you just get back on track. Okay, and you rinse and repeat the week after. Maybe after, if you're super shredded like me and you have around 10% body fat, maybe you can be doing that 2 days a week, right? And some days actually, some weeks actually, it's gonna be last minute things where you go out with your friend. That's fine. Do not panic. Just let's say if you have a good afternoon, somewhere and it's a rooftop, well, just order some protein. I do that a lot here in Bali. Let's say last minute I need to take a girl on a date. I go to this rooftop and it's 4 p.m. and I'm kind of hungry and I know I'm gonna stay here for some time. Well, I just get some ceviche, for example, like beef tartare, or some super lean protein, no carbs, no fat. And when I come back home for dinner, I have my normal meal, right? That's the mindset you always want to have. If you know in advance, just use that framework. If let's say there's a last minute thing in the afternoon, just go for a very light protein option and that's it. Okay? So make sure that next time you go out, you follow those steps in that exact order, okay? I think the key here is probably to plan, to knowing where you're gonna eat so you can plan your meals in advance and just follow step 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just like emergency. Okay, I got troubleshooting just in case something happened. But hopefully we're not gonna be overeating. You're gonna stay dialed in. You're gonna see results. And just remember, life is not perfect, and we know things can happen last minute. And this is why, for most people, it's important just to reach out to someone to ask for help if you're not really sure. That's why people have me as well. Some guys in my program have last minute event and they're not sure what to order. Why we review the menu together, right? So if you feel like it's gonna be a struggle and a pain for you and you wanna remove the guesswork, well, again, you can apply to work one-on-one coaching with me. And that, I just take care of that for you. Okay, you reach out, you're like, hey, I'm having this dinner. How can I manage my diet during the day? And also, I hold people accountable, workout plan, diet plan. Anyway, if you're interested in working one-on-one with me, link in the bio, you can apply. I reach out to you, see you in a good fit. In the meantime, stay disciplined and thanks for watching.